Okay, everybody, today we're going to talk about our good old friend premenstrual syndrome, or PMS. So many of us suffer from that as we go through our womanly years, and a lot of people think there's only two options. Either you suffer through it or you go on birth control. And so we're here today to talk about the fact that there are other options out there to help women get through what can be a very difficult time. So the gal I'm interviewing today is going to talk just about that and what her experience with acupuncture and herbs has done for her battle with this problem. So why don't you go ahead and tell everybody what brought you in?
I was experiencing extremely painful PMS symptoms and extremely painful menstrual cycles. I was also troubled with PMS that was leaving me irritable and cranky and unkind to my family and friends. And I would subsequently then feel very remorseful and, almost sink into a state of depression based on my behavior in the early phase of each menstrual cycle. So it was just becoming something that was affecting my daily life. And so I reached out to my gynecologist thinking exactly that there's just give me some sort of pill, put me on something to fix this, give me myself back. And in speaking with her, she actually identified that acupuncture might be a solution, a non-medicinal solution, which is what brought me here.
All right. So what were your expectations when you first came to see me? Did you think acupuncture was going to help?
I had no idea. I honestly had been completely uneducated as to what acupuncture entails and its benefits. It's just not something that I feel is widely talked about. And so I didn't have many expectations. I literally called you the same day of my doctor's appointment and said, just fix me, please just fix me. So I had really no expectations when I came into this.
Okay, great. And the reason I asked that, because I remember you were quite surprised when things got better. So you came to see me, and typically what I do is I'll see women once a week until your first cycle comes through, and then we reevaluate how you're doing. So give us a little, if you can remember, what it was like the first cycle you had after starting acupuncture and the Chinese herbs.
So the very first cycle, I noticed a difference right away. My PMS symptoms were much less robust. My irritability pretty much disappeared, and my cramps were much less extreme during the cycle. But I think the most notable change was the decrease of the PMS symptoms.
Right. And just to let people know, what I did is I put her on two different formulas, one to help the emotional liability that she has right before her menstrual cycle, and then another formula to deal with the heavy bleeding and the cramping. Before, you used to cramp severely for 2 or 3 days, and you'd have to take Advil kind of around the clock
Constantly,
on those days.
yes,
yeah.
Constantly.
And I think that first month you only had to take it once.
Correct.
And have you taken any Advil since then for your cramps?
No, it's to a point now where, I notice I'm on my cycle, but there's been no pain. It used to be to where I was completely wiped out. I was useless for a day because I'd be doubled over in pain if I weren't on Advil around the clock. And now I'm to a point where I don't need any pain relievers during my cycle.
And I remember, I think it was the second month you came in and you said you were completely surprised that you started your period because you weren't irritable.
Yes.
And you didn't have any cramping.
Yes.
So,
Exactly. I said I didn't even know it was coming because normally there's an emotional change and I feel it and I recognize it. And by the second month, I was surprised. I think I gave you the analogy that I'm like a high schooler again, surprised by this occurrence every month.
Yeah, that's right. I forgot about that. That was a great analogy. And so now what you do is you're coming in just once a month, right? Just to maintain where you are. You continue on the herbs. The other interesting thing about you that I would like to talk about is how when you've forgotten to take the herbs for a few days, what do you notice?
I definitely notice my, the term you use, my emotional liability. I guess the liability increases, so I find myself to be weepy, insecure, sinking towards that depressed state. And when I step back and think, why am I feeling this way? What has changed? I typically recognize, whoops, I missed my herbs for a few days, or 1 month I ran out and needed to come get some more. So I've definitely noticed those having a significant effect.
Right. And so typically with most people, just so the audience knows, is that, sometimes you said you usually only just take them once a day for
Correct.
the most part. So I don't want people to think you have to stay on them for a lifetime, which typically is not the case. You happen to have an extremely stressful job, and I think that keeps your body in that inflamed and that heightened kind of sympathetic overdrive state at all the time. So you are someone who probably needs to be on those for a little bit longer. And then for the cramping herbs, you only take them now 2 or 3 days before your cycle.
Correct.
And so that's always our goal, is to actually get your body just back to kind of being able to take care of it's on its own without the herbs, without the needles and that type of thing. So anyway, I appreciate you coming in. Is there anything else you'd like to tell the audience?
I just think this experience has been so valuable, and I wish it was more mainstreamed, the extreme value that acupuncture can have, especially for a woman. It's significantly helped my PMS and my menstrual cycle challenges, but it's also been a very important element in my stress management. I'm very type A, I'm very high strung, I have young children and a very demanding job. So this has been something that I've been able to do for myself to keep me centered and keep me balanced.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks so much for coming in. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
All right, guys, stay safe, keep smiling. Take care.